welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I am Dr. Nandita Mohan and let's look into the latest developments. A diet rich in fruits decreases the cardiometabolic risk in obese patients. Although you might know that eating certain foods can increase your heart disease risk, however, changing your eating habits is often quite tough. Whether you have years of unhealthy eating under your belt or you simply want to fine-tune your diet, you still should know in fact which foods to eat more of and which foods to limit. You'll therefore be on your way towards a heart-healthy diet. A diet which is rich in fruits has always been shown to have positive impacts on our health. According to a study which is recently published in the Korean Journal of Family Medicine, has stated that increased fruit consumption has probably positive impacts on the cardiometabolic risk factors in obese patients. The study included approximately 21,000 participants aged 40 and older who were regularly monitored. A food frequency questionnaire was used to measure the fruit intake. Researchers discovered that the overall amount of fruit ingested or the variations in the fruit intake rose among the obese patients. Parameters like waist circumference, systolic blood pressure, and even triglycerides, for a matter of fact, were reduced in both men and women as the total fruit consumption increased. Unlike males, women's fasting blood glucose levels also improved with an increased fruit consumption. Hence, it was concluded that a larger volume of fruit consumption as well as an increase in fruit consumption may have positive impacts on the cardiometabolic risk factors, especially for obese people. Heat-treated milk products consumption in infancy increases the asthma risk. Previous studies have mentioned that the consumption of unprocessed cow's milk has been associated with a lower risk of childhood asthma. However, not much is known about how differently milk processing units can help in this aspect. A new study published by the Pediatric Allergy and Immunology has highlighted that infants with high consumption of infant formula and other strongly heat-treated milk products demonstrate an increased risk of asthma. It was found that at the age of 5 years, 6% of the children had asthma, of whom 54.9% were atopic condition and 40.8% were non-atopic. Consumption of infant formulas and strongly heat-treated milk products was associated with a risk of all asthma types, and that the consumption of all cow's milk products, non-fermented milk products, infant formulas, and strongly heat-treated milk products was associated with the non-atopic type. The researchers therefore concluded that high consumption of infant formula and other strongly heat-treated milk products may be associated with the development of asthma in children. Diabetes patients at high risk of developing hepatitis B infection, do not share your home monitoring devices is the message. Home monitoring devices have indeed helped people, specifically those suffering with diabetes. But with such devices, occurrence of infections is also a probability that we seldom take into consideration. A recent research has devised that people living with diabetes condition are at an increased risk for hepatitis B if they start sharing their blood glucose meters, finger stick devices, or even other diabetes care equipments such as syringes or insulin pens. Among people living with diabetes, the hepatitis B virus has been spread through contact with the infectious blood. The intervention given for the study was that the venous blood was collected for hepatitis B serological testing and blood glucose testing. The results of the study showed that the hepatitis B surface antigen had a positive rate in people with diabetes. It was 2%, and in those with diabetes was 4.2%. The researchers concluded that routine blood glucose monitoring at home was associated with hepatitis B virus infection, which meant that people with diabetes may be at high risk of hepatitis B virus infection. PET tracer imaging technique found to be effective for the detection of gastric lymphomas. Primary gastric lymphomas are the most common extranodal site of non-Hodgkin's lymphomas and represent about 30 to 40% of all extranodal lymphomas. One of the subtype of this type is the Malt lymphoma, which is usually the marginal zone B-cell lymphoma of the mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. The first line of therapy is therefore generally directed against this particular bacterium. In order to examine the response to therapy of the Malt lymphomas of the stomach and to exclude a recurrence of the lymphoma even after complete regression in the further course, repeated gastroscopies with multiple tissue sampling at intervals of several months are still necessary. But a new imaging technique has been discovered for the detection of Malt lymphomas, malignant tumors of the lymphatic system that could probably save patients undergo numerous gastroscopies. The combination of positron emission tomography in combination with magnetic resonance imaging, that is the PET-MR using Pentaxafor, has shown a very high accuracy. It demonstrated 97% accurate in detecting the tumor compared to gastroscopy in patients with Malt lymphomas of the stomach after an H. pylori treatment. Therefore, the authors concluded that if a sufficiently high expression is detected at the initial diagnosis of the Malt lymphoma, the new imaging technique could replace the repeated gastroscopies in the course of the disease in the future, or at least increase the time intervals between subsequent gastroscopies. Psychotherapy can also provide pain relief in chronic back pain, a JAMA study reveals. A constant dull ache, a sharp or a stabbing pain, a tingling or burning sensation. If you've had chronic back pain, it can feel like you're in constant discomfort or you're waiting for the hurt to return. And you're probably wondering exactly how you got there. Back pain is one of the most common reasons people go to the doctor or even miss their work, and it is a leading cause of disability worldwide whose treatment is often ineffective. 85% of the cases are for the primary chronic back pain, for which peripheral etiology cannot still be identified. The maintenance factors include avoidance, fears, and even belief that pain can even indicate injury. A recent study in JAMA Psychiatry has reported that the psychological treatment aimed at changing the patient's beliefs about the causes and treat the value of pain in patients with chronic back pain is to be associated with a substantial and durable pain relief. 66% of the participants were randomized to 4 weeks of pain repressing therapy and 20% were randomized to placebo, and the 10% remaining were randomized to usual care. Treatment effects were maintained at 1 year follow-up, and the longitudinal MRI showed reduced responses to evoke the back pain in the anterior mid-cingulate and the anterior prefrontal cortex. There were reduced responses even in the anterior insula. There was an increased resting connectivity from the anterior prefrontal cortex and the anterior insula to the primary sensorineural cortex for both the groups, and an increased connectivity from the anterior mid-cingulate to the percutaneous area was also observed. Hence, changing fear and avoidance of inducing beliefs about the causes and threat value of pain may provide substantial, durable pain relief for people with primary chronic back pain. That's all for today.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.